Hello, welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Spencer Limbach at Spencer_JL on Twitter. And speaking of Twitter, we just found some interesting wines, some Clay Buckholes. If you're a fan of white wine, he's got a Chardonnay you can get for $11.99. So there's your free plug, Clay Buckholes. But I found that
Don't
in
forget
passing.
about John Lester's.
Yeah, John Lester. I mean, he's not pitching tonight, but what was it? I can't remember.
It's something with an ace.
Cabernet. That's what it was.
Cabernet, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's self-proclaimed ace, John Lester.
yeah, there you go. So he has his moments, but there's your wine talk for the day. Go out and try these wines. They're probably terrible. Don't try them, but they have cool names. But another person that has a cool name is Madison Bumgarner, and he gets to face the Phillies tonight in the third round of their total knockout fights with Clayton Kershaw, Zach Greinke, now Madison Bumgarner, and I can't imagine that they do much better against Madison Bumgarner tonight than they did against these other two guys. Bumgarner coming off of his worst start of the season against Washington, but I mean, I still think we're going to see a similar performance to last time he faced Philly. Went 8 innings, 6 hits, 11 Ks, got the win. I'm expecting a performance much like that one because I mean this is a team that's just devoid of good offensive talent, and I mean he's your easy top option tonight.
Yeah, he's certainly a safe play, and I don't think we need to tell anyone that. I mean, you're going to have to pay out, but I think you can work them in. There's some cheap guys we'll get to a little bit later that can make, getting him in, getting some other viable hitters in, very good reality tonight. Otherwise, if you want to spin down, mostly for GPPs, you're looking at guys like Garrett Cole, and then even further down, maybe Noah Syndergaard starting to get it going. He's at home. That should help him. Pitcher-friendly park there in New York against an Arizona team that doesn't really do much outside of their own hitter-friendly parks. So I don't really mind that matchup. Syndergaard has been a lot better at home this season, and he's been better as of late in general. So 8.4K, I like that price point there. Otherwise, digging down a little bit deeper, I think Mike Montgomery, he had those back-to-back shutouts. Since then, he was okay at Oakland. Definitely a risk-reward play against the Angels because you have Mike Trout, Albert Pujols. But if he can get through those two guys, that bottom half of the lineup really isn't very good. So maybe he can work around them, get some strikeout upside, and maybe get a win. Otherwise, who are you looking at for the mid-range, cheaper tier?
For me, there's a couple guys. I do like Clay Buckholes in GPPs. He's been pitching really, really well. Obviously, doesn't come without risk against the Yankee team with a lot of good hitters, a lot of good lefties, like you were mentioning. We were talking before the show. Obviously, Ellsbury back, Brett Gardner, Mark Teixeira. You still got to worry about righties like Alex Rodriguez. But I mean, this is a guy who, in his last 3 starts, has gone 9, 8, and 7 innings against Houston, at Toronto, and against Baltimore. 3 good offenses, gotten the win in each one of those. 16, 17, and 20 fantasy points. And he's got really good splits against lefties and righties. 268 WOBA allowed to lefties so far this season. And pretty good numbers against righties as well. 310, a little bit above league average. But only 1 home run allowed to righties this season. 51 innings pitched. I mean, his numbers are up there in line with a lot of aces, and he just doesn't get talked about with among them. But 23% strikeout rate, 49% ground ball rate, 0.41 home runs per 9, only walking 5% of batters. I mean, he's got great peripheral numbers. So, obviously it's a dangerous Yankees team, but that's just going to keep his ownership even lower tonight. So he's a guy that I really like in GPPs.
Yeah, one more cheap guy I really like. The cheapest I will go, and I'm surprised you didn't plug him yet. Mike Leake of Cincinnati. He hasn't really done much lately. Hasn't been horrible, but at the same time, about a month ago, he faced the Marlins at home. 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, and a win, 18 fantasy points. And now he gets the Marlins at Miami, pitcher-friendly park, without Giancarlo Stanton. So you have to kind of like his prospects a little bit, especially for the price point, 6.1K. If you're in a tournament, you can build some really nice stacks around that. So if I'm going to dip down, if I need a cheap pick to just round out a bunch of hitters that I love, I think Mike Leake is the one with a little bit of upside.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can see that. And I believe that Stanton was still around and he played in that game, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. So
Yeah.
yeah, he did, because he got hurt on the 26th, though. So yeah, Leak is a guy. I mean, he's a ground ball pitcher, really tough on righties, but not so great against lefties. So it's going to be interesting. He's got a 290 WOBA allowed to righties, but definitely beatable by lefties. 344 for WOBA. But like you said, we've seen it from him before. I mean, he's either great or gets crushed, but there's not a whole lot to worry about in this Marlins lineup. I mean, outside of a bad first inning last night, Michael Lorenzen had some success against him. He has been not a very good pitcher this year. I mean, he's a contact pitcher, and League doesn't fool a lot of guys, but at that price tag, I think he's if you're trying to stack some bats, he's definitely the guy that you want to go with.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll also throw out Danny Salazar. Oakland is good against righties, but Salazar's got big upside. Hasn't pitched well really at all recently. Hasn't got out of the fifth inning in 3 of his last 4 starts, but that's just going to keep his ownership levels really low. And as we know, when he's on, he can dominate any lineup. 28.9% strikeout rate still this season. So definitely a guy to look at in your GPPs. Not a guy I'll have a ton of, but certainly big-time upside with him tonight.
Yep.
All right, catcher options. I'm going to go ahead and mix it up and start down by the bottom, where Derek Norris is only $2,400 tonight against Wandy Rodriguez. We know Derek Norris crushes lefties. Should be batting either first or second tonight, as he has been most of the season against lefties. And at near bare minimum price, if you want a guy like Madison Bumgarner in your cash games tonight, then you're going to need to punt somewhere. And I think that Derek Norris, he might be the best overall punt on the board, if you ask me.
Yeah, I have him rated as the top overall catcher, regardless of price. So 2.4K for that in a hitter-friendly park against a lefty. He's basically a lock for me. I don't think you really need to get cute with it. But if you have a little more cap space to go with and you want to get away from the popular pick, because I'm sure everyone's going to be on him tonight, all the articles will have Derek Norris because that's just too good of a price point to pass up. So if you want to steer away from that, maybe AJ Pierzynski, more of a risk-reward pick. He was horrible last night, just terrible at-bats, but he was hot coming in. It really depends on who Colorado is going to roll out there tonight, because they originally had David Hale taking the mound, but he ended up pitching last night after the delay and got hurt. So word has it that they're either going to bump up Jorge De La Rosa, the lefty, or they're going to get a spot starter. If it's a spot starter, you want some Atlanta left-handed bats more than likely in Coors Field, because it's just going to be some garbage filler, maybe hopefully innings eater. So that really would give a boost to the Braves, guys like Jace Peterson, Brzezinski, Maben, Kelly Johnson. So keep an eye on that situation.
Yeah, that's going to decide a lot of things tonight, I think, for me as well. A couple other catcher options. You guys, Monty Grandal, once again facing a righty at home, $3,600. He's hitting the ball very well. But if you're paying that kind of price tag and you want just to swerve off that, Urban Santana's only made 1 start. Victor Martinez, same price against him. Went 0 for last night, but as we know, he's when healthy, one of the best hitters in the game, really at any position. So you can consider him. And then I'll throw out one more guy here as well, Russell Martin or his teammate Dioner Navarro against lefty Danny Duffy. Danny Duffy has been really bad against right-handed batters this season. And as we know, Toronto crushes lefties, and Danny Duffy's WOBA against righties, 367 on the season. So definitely a guy that you want to get some exposure to.
Yeah, and Navarro's only 2.3K, so another cheap option there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. As we move over to first base, there's one guy that I really liked. We were talking before the show. You agreed instantly. Prince Fielder, 9-run total against flyball pitcher and Ian Kennedy at home. It's a big total, like I said. He's only $3,500. Ian Kennedy is allowing a ton of home runs this year, 2.03 per 9 innings.
And that's in Petco.
Yeah. I mean, he is not in a good spot tonight against power hitters, especially a guy like Prince Fielder, who isn't – I mean, he's not even hitting for a ton of power this year, but, I mean, he's just hitting the ball so well. I believe he's still batting .350 on the season, so, I mean, he's having a great year. And $3,500, he just makes a lot of sense as a cash game and GPP option tonight.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be debating between him and Adrian Gonzalez for the same price. Adrian Gonzalez coming off a couple nice games, or like 2 of the last 3 games. He had a home run, or 2 of the last 4, something like that. I don't think Adrian Gonzalez is a bad play. I think you could go with either and feel relatively confident with it. But like you said, I'm giving a little bit of a boost to Fielder. I think he's the number one overall first baseman today. And in that matchup against flyball pitcher like Kennedy in Globe Life Park. And you can't really beat that price point, 3.5K. I really like it. He has a lot of security and he has upside too. So I'm going to have him in majority of my cash games.
Yeah, and another interesting option tonight, Adam Lind, righty masher, of course, gets Mike Bolsinger, who's actually been pretty good this season, but saw it was actually listed on FanDuel. His splits between home and road are pretty significant, batting 343 at Miller Park, 237 on the road. So I'm not saying not to play him, but Bolsinger's actually been pretty good, and it's a big ballpark. So I mean, GBP only for me. There's not really a reason I would see to pay up or lend in your cash games tonight.
Yeah, and it's looking down at the value section, below 3K. I don't really see anyone I love. It's strange. Like usually you have so many options at first base, you don't know what to do with them, but there's not many well-priced, good matchup picks there that I'm seeing today. Maybe for a GPP, Justin Bour, 2.7K. We said Leak is in a decent position for Cincinnati, but he does struggle against lefties, as you said. And Justin Bour, he nearly hit a home run last night. A moonshot that I really didn't know how it left the park. That just speaks to Miami's pitcher-friendly atmosphere down there. But yeah, he has the necessary power to give you a little bit of upside, sitting at 2.7K. So maybe look to him. Eric Hosmer, 2.6K, had a really good game yesterday, moving up in the lineup with Alex Gordon and Moustakas out. Moustakas may be back in today, so keep an eye on that. But yeah, those are two cheap guys that might be worth considering in tournaments.
Yeah, and if you want some Coors exposure, Willen Rosario at 3,200 or Ben Paulson at 28. If you want one of those guys, Rosario in a righty-righty matchup, Shelby Miller's pretty tough on righties, so I don't like that as much. But if Ben Paulson's in, should be batting 6th, I would assume. I don't mind him at 2.8K tonight, though.
Yep.
All right, second base. You already kind of mentioned Jace Peterson. Keep your eye on that Colorado pitching situation, see who that is. Because if it's De La Rosa and you get him in a lefty-lefty, you're not going to like him as much. But a spot starter, like you said, definitely could give him a big-time bump. D. Gordon ran wild last night, $3,100 tonight. Had 2 hits and a walk, swiped 3 bags. We've said this before, neither of the Reds catchers great at throwing the runners out. In fact, D. Gordon did get thrown out once last night. He went 3 for 4. But
that's good enough for fantasy, though.
Yeah, I mean, you swipe more than 1 bag. I mean, it was the first inning. He stole second, stole third after a single, then scored. He had 6 points in the first inning. Like, you're good. I mean, you are beyond good. That's a home run from D. Gordon off of a single. So, I mean, he can rack up points in a hurry. He's going to be popular once again tonight. A couple other guys to consider here if you want some alternatives there because he's going to be popular. Ian Kinsler had a really big game last night. You're certainly not chasing a home run, but you were telling me I didn't see the second one. The double he hit was almost a home run, bounced off the top of the wall. So definitely got to consider tonight in your GBPs.
Yep. I do like D. Gordon, and I hate it because I feel like I'm chasing points, but I think he's still in a pretty decent position. And that price point, it's just tough to get away from that. The other guy I was looking at, and it really depends on lineup spot, is Odor of Texas. As we were saying, we like the Texas lefties. If he's up in the lineup for some reason, I don't expect him to be. I think he might be 7th or 8th again. They seem pretty set with Chu and DeShields up there in the 1-2 spot. So we'll see what they do. Maybe they put him up there in the leadoff role. If that's the case, I'm going to be looking for a lot of shares of him at 2.8K. Otherwise, if he's down the lineup, I might spin him around in a tournament pick, but I'll be a little more hesitant in cash games. Yeah. Otherwise, one more down here. Sorry to cut you off. Danny Espinoza against Chris Tillman, 2.5K. I just wanted to get to him for you.
No, that's fair. I mean, one of us.
So when he goes off, I could be like, yeah, that was me. I called it.
Hey, you can get all the credit for him. I don't mind that. But I think he's the best cheap option for sure.
Yeah, he's been hitting second lately, so he has a little bit of upside. We saw it 2 games ago. He had a double and a home run at home against Cincinnati. So he's a guy, great lineup spot, great security with Bryce Harper behind him, and the matchup against Tillman, who's been struggling. Gotta like that.
Yeah, Tillman's just been absolutely terrible. Moving over to third base now, your top option has got to be Josh Donaldson at Kansas City. You don't like the ballpark, but you like the lefty matchup against Danny Duffy. As we know, Josh Donaldson, one of, if not the best hitter in the game against left-handed pitching. Duffy struggles with righties. Everything except for the park going his favor tonight. $5,100, though, you got to pay a pretty penny. Nolan Arenado, same price, but righty-righty matchup with Shelby Miller. Arenado's been good against righties, but so is Miller. So I think if I'm paying up, for me, it's going to be Donaldson over Arenado. But I think Arenado's a fine tournament option, though.
Yeah, I think Donaldson is the top overall play. You don't really like Arenado against Shelby Miller for that price point because Shelby Miller is more of a ground ball pitcher. Pretty decent pitcher overall, so I don't know if he has the same upside as usual. Otherwise, I don't see many picks in the mid-range that I'm really excited about, so I might dig a little bit deeper. Looking at Danny Valencia of Toronto in the righty-lefty matchup, kind of a cheaper version of his teammate Josh Donaldson, obviously not with the same upside, not with the same security, but he has pretty decent splits against lefties, usually bats 5th or 6th against southpaws, so I don't really mind that as a cheap play. Otherwise, Miguel Sano of the Twins, like him against Verlander over the season, over the past 2-3 seasons, Verlander's had reverse splits, easier on righties, so Sano's kind of settled into that cleanup role. He's been hitting the ball hard recently, so I like him. I like the price point, 2.7K. Otherwise, if you want to go dirt cheap, we have Will Middlebrooks sitting at absolute minimum salary, righty-lefty matchup against Wendy Rodriguez tonight in a hitter-friendly ballpark, so check to see if he's in the lineup. I imagine he will be against a lefty. No pun intended there. But he hasn't done much recently. He's just been doing some pinch hitting, some platoon. But the park upgrade in Texas could do him some favors tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll throw out a couple more guys for you here. First guy being Derek Dietrich, already mentioned lefties against Mike Leake. He's 2.3K. And then one more guy here, and this is obviously contingent on Colorado's lineup, once again, who they bring out as pitcher. But if there's a lefty on the mound, Chris Johnson at $3,000 crushes left-handed pitching. Look at his numbers this season. Only a 119 ISO, but a 398 WOBA. That's all he does is hit lefties. Went 3 for 4 last night, actually. So $3,000, I think he's a really good way to get cheap exposure to Coors tonight if there's a lefty on the mound.
And he usually moves up in the order against a lefty, too, so that'll help.
Yeah, absolutely. Shortstop's going to be really interesting tonight. Tulo, another one of those guys in righty-righty against Shelby Miller. I'm not saying not to play him. I'm just saying I don't think he's a must-play by any means. Certainly a guy I want some exposure to. Other options, past that, I'm probably going to be paying down. You get Jose Reyes against Danny Duffy. He's in a fine spot as well. But other guys that usually like in cash, like Johnny Peralta, Xander Bogaerts, facing off against a couple tough pitchers in Cole and Michael Pineda. So cheap guys that I'm looking at, Alcides Escobar at $2,500. Gotta love him. Leading off in this matchup against Marco Estrada, who's actually been pretty good, but I'm not a believer that he's all of a sudden this dominant pitcher that he's acted like in a couple starts. And if not him, your power upside guy's got to be Ian Desmond. Righty-righty matchup against Chris Tillman and his 408 WOBA allowed to right-handed batters this year.
Yeah, definitely like Desmond for some upside. But my cheap pick, that is, maybe with Francisco Lindor. He's been batting second. He's been decent as of late, getting some multi-hit games. Was fortunate enough to have him in my primary lineup last night when he hit a home run. So I think I might go back to the well with him. Graveman is a good pitcher. He's not anyone to fear by any means. So don't really mind him in this spot. Opportunity cost really isn't there. There aren't many people you feel bad about not having at shortstop. As we were saying before the show, Simmons of Atlanta, if there is a lefty on the mound for Colorado, that could be a decent pick, 2.6K. Very cheap way to get exposure to Coors Field, that high total. So keep an eye on that. Otherwise, I think this is a place to save. And Escobar, Lindor, Desmond are kind of the three I'm bouncing around, but I might be going with Lindor over those two.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you can make a case for any of those three guys, depending on what game you're playing. Outfield options, This is one of those situations where I really don't feel like it's necessary to pay all the way up because there's a lot of guys in the middle tier. If I'm going to pay up, probably going to be Bryce Harper against Chris Tillman because, I mean, it's lefty-righty match. We've got the platoon split. Tillman better against lefties than righties, but still just not very good. You got Trout and Bautista both in pitchers' parks. I mean, in fine matchups, but not guys that I'm really willing to pay over $5K for tonight, especially in cash games. When you drop down a little bit further, you gotta like Carlos Gonzalez. He's my favorite Coors Field play tonight at $3,800. He's the cheapest way to get yourself some exposure there. Obviously, you've got some other guys. Charlie Blackmon's just so much more expensive; it's hard to fit him. And then right below him, Nelson Cruz, $3,300, gets a lefty, fly ball lefty, and Hector Santiago, who is a guy you really want to pick on with power bats. He's allowing a 52.5% fly ball rate, 1.15 home runs per nine. And Nelson Cruz really starting to hit the ball well again after struggling for a little while.
Yeah, Nelson Cruz is very comfortable play at 3.3K. I think you can have him in, all your formats, tournaments, cash games, everything. He's going to be a popular pick, so be aware of that. But I think he's one of those you can kind of click in, know he's popular, and then kind of build some contrarian parts around him. I think he just has that go floor ceiling combination tonight in this matchup. Otherwise, steering down a little bit, you have Justin Upton. I would recommend him only for tournaments because he's dealing with oblique soreness, even though it's a good lefty-righty matchup. Upton he hasn't been that great against lefties this year, and I don't know what that is, if that's just kind of an anomaly due to the sample size, or if he's just, I don't know. It's really hard to say, but 2.7K, plus he's dealing with an injury, maybe more of a tournament pick despite the great matchup. Otherwise, steering down a little more, we have Shin Soo Choo, 2.6K. We said Texas lefties against Kennedy. You have to love that. He's very favorably priced at 2.6K. Otherwise, if you want a little more upside, his teammate Mitch Moreland is at 2.9K. As we know, he has 2-homer potential, especially against a fly ball pitcher like Ian Kennedy. And then I know you have one punt play that you really like for tournaments, if you want to go touch on that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Mark Trumbo at $2,300 tonight. Got big-time power, especially against lefties. He got 7 hits in his last 3 games as well, near minimum salary. So he's definitely a guy that I'm going to be trying to get myself some tournament exposure to, maybe pairing him with Nelson Cruz and get some big-time upside.
Yeah, and then if you aren't quite sold on Trumbo, or you want to reserve him more for tournaments, and then you want a different cash game play, I think David Murphy kind of makes a case there. He's usually batting cleanup for Cleveland against a right-hander. As we said earlier, Kendall Graveman, he's been decent as of late, but he's not someone to really shy away from if you have a split that you like and you have a price that you like. And that's the case with David Murphy right here. Plus, he's been pretty hot lately. Multiple hits in 2 of his last 3 games, 3 doubles over that span. So he's a guy who could do some damage. Cleveland's a pretty good park to left-handed power too. So maybe he'll catch a little hint of upside as well. There's always that outside possibility there in Cleveland. So yeah, I don't really mind him if you're looking for a cheap filler.
Yeah, absolutely with you there. Anybody else you like before we get out of here?
Not really. That's pretty much it for my list. I want to throw out Matt Kemp. Not ecstatic about the price at 3K, but he is a righty-lefty matchup, has good numbers against lefties in a hitter-friendly park. So I'd rather have a guy like Nelson Cruz or Moreland or Chu, but he's still in the conversation if you're building multiple tournament lineups and you kind of just mixing and matching. I'd throw Kemp in a couple.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to wrap things up. Find us on Twitter at DFCafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our optimizer and all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.